going on, everybody? I'm Sean Daniel.
Greetings, I'm Justin Mitchell.
And today we're going to talk a little bit about arpeggios.
My favorite thing in music.
They're not my arpeggios. They're not your arpeggios.
No, they're all of our arpeggios.
Right? Yeah. And this is actually going to be a multi-part series about arpeggios.
Yes.
Starting off with a little bit of the basics, not the exact basics. We're going to skip ahead a little bit. We've got other videos about arpeggios. But we're going to talk about how you can use them, and eventually it's going to lead to sweep picking.
Right.
Because I get a lot of questions about, like, how do you sweep pick? And it's like, to do a standalone video on sweep picking.
It's irresponsible.
It really is.
It's irresponsible.
It's just not right. So we're going to build up to it. But arpeggios, I feel, are kind of like one of the classiest ways to learn music.
Oh, without question.
So what I thought I would do is I prepared this cheese and cracker plate here, just to kind of put here. So if you ever want to take a break, arpeggios.
Right, yeah.
Right? So, down to business.
Right.
Basically, an arpeggio, the definition of it is when you play a chord one note at a time.
That's right.
Right? And I think there's a lot of confusion out there because when I was first starting to play, I thought an arpeggio was like, which technically it is.
Right.
Right? But that's such a basic understanding of arpeggios that is not helpful at all. It's boring.
Right. Yeah. Because I mean, you could just say that like when you look at tab or sheet music, right? If the notes are stacked on top of each other and you're playing them in harmony, that is a chord, right? And if they're spaced out and you're playing them kind of linearly, then that melody could be an arpeggio, right?
Right. So the difference between a chord and arpeggio is really just kind of perspective, honestly.
That's right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So we're going to just run through a few chords. I'm just going to play chords, and he's going to play arpeggios,
That's right.
but in kind of like a lead way, because I think the main goal of this whole series is to kind of like come at even just like lead playing or just improvising or just doing
right,
any
or
kind of
even writing melodies.
Yeah, exactly. Composition, arrangement,
right.
Everything musically can come down to arpeggio. It's a great way to get a different perspective on learning.
That's right.
So I'm just gonna play G major to E minor.
Okay.
And he's gonna just arp all over this nonsense.
I'm gonna arp all over.
Here you go. So 1, 2, 3, 4.
Something like that.
Yeah, so it's just a way that you can kind of never really run out of things to do.
Yeah, the beautiful part about exploring arpeggios is that you reach the point where that there are no really wrong notes. You know, I mean, like you are always following a chord, and it helps you get away from the perspective of what they call tonic soloing, which is like when you have your pentatonic shape and you are soloing in this tonic, you know, and it sounds good. And there are plenty of people who can use the pentatonic scale to follow the changes.
Right.
But when you're really focused on the chord and embellishing that chord with different notes within your arpeggio, it really opens up what you're able to do.
Especially when it comes to like a lot of players get stuck in a rut. And if you have a comprehensive knowledge of arpeggios, you literally cannot be stuck in a rut. You know that there's something that you can do.
That is right.
And again, so kind of like our own personal stories, I came around arpeggios pretty late. And Justin, you kind of like learned a lot. Like that was kind of like one of your main, I guess, eureka moments.
That's
like
right.
Through arpeggios.
Correct, yeah. So Ian Stitch, who you guys saw in the Modes with Friends.
Don't bring him into this.
Don't bring him into this?
We don't need to talk about Ian. But well, go ahead. All right.
I was just going to say that he introduced me into the concept that the fretboard could be connected.
Okay.
And that's what really set off, me looking into. I bought all kinds of books and tried to find videos. Well, honestly, I couldn't find really many helpful videos on arpeggios or sweep picking. So, and
like he was a guy. So me and my buddy Cody, when I first met him, he was working at a guitar shop, and we would always see him in Starbucks with those like grimoire books. And me and Cody would be like, look at this guy, trying to like learn out of a book.
That's right.
Like he's not a real musician. You just need to play, man. You can't skip playing.
That's right.
Get your head out of the books and pick up a guitar. And then like a month passed and he was way better than we were. We're like, what happened?
Yeah.
Like we need to get one of these books. And that was kind of through the joy of arpeggios that I feel like you're playing advanced very quickly.
Yep. Yep. Yeah, because I was real passionate about playing that.
Yeah. So let's kind of just go over basically two types, major and minor arpeggios.
That's right.
And then let's kind of expand on them a little bit more.
That's the easiest way to do it.
So let's start off. What do you think?
So if we take a G major chord and in this case a G major arpeggio, the shapes that you might be familiar with begin on the third fret of the low E string, and that's our 1. And then here, if we're going to move to the A string, second fret, there's our 3, and there's our 5.
Yeah, it all comes from the major scale, right? Like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. You take the 1, 3, and 5.
That's right.
We've done this in other videos and stuff too, but that's a really important thing to understand. Root, major third, perfect fifth.
And then you can repeat it an octave up as Sean has shown in like a previous video. And then you do the same thing at the fifth, fourth.
You just repeat that shape. So the repeatable shapes you can play through the fretboard with.
And that's one of the most beautiful things about arpeggios is that I encourage you at the end of this series to take the time to really learn the entire neck in one major and one minor shape, and then you will be able to legitimately play in any key at any time because they're so easy to transpose, and that's something that we'll go over as well.
Yep.
So in order to make this arpeggio shape a minor shape, all you're going to do is take this second note that we're playing, which happens to be the third of the chord, and you're going to move it down 1 fret, so 1/2 step. So
flattened third.
Flat third, minor
That's
third.
the difference between major and minor.
That's it. So
same root, same fifth, different third.
And then to make it easier for you, I think you can also use your pinky to hit the same note. So you're on the third fret of the G here on your low E, and then right here at the 6th fret.
Minor third.
That's it.
Very important.
So we have major.
And I think just doing that back to back is a great way to like really just get the sound of a major arpeggio versus a minor arpeggio
That's right.
into your head. Right?
Yeah.
So that was just off the same root note, right?
That's off the same root note.
So if you're ever trying to like, if you're like in a position where you're trying to play with somebody, yeah, and maybe it's somebody who's like not even staying within one key, right? Like, you know, if somebody's always playing chords in one key, you could just get into like a pentatonic position and just mess around, right?
Yeah.
But if they're changing, like, okay, I'm gonna play like a C major to a C sharp major or something. This is like a way to really quickly do one thing and then just do this a similar thing. Use like, you know, your arpeggio toolbox. So
That's
to
right.
speak, and kind of do it.
And so just as like a general exercise, if you're playing with your friends, and if they're playing an A chord here, which would be like an A minor, just imagine like that note, wherever their root note is that they're playing is the, right? So. You know, it's just the shapes that we're going over right now, and you're just playing off directly that chord. So as they move, so if Sean is playing an A minor chord, you know, so I have, and then he moves to a G major. So, you know, obviously that's not very musical, but that is the best place to start.
Right. It's just kind of like getting the roadmap in your head. Like, all right, A minor, G major. And then you just like branch off from there.
Right.
And especially like you said, learning it through the neck. So why don't we do just a couple shapes?
Yeah,
like,
I'd love to.
Through the neck, more than just 2 because I think in my videos I've only done like 2 octaves at a time.
Right.
Right. So let's kind of expand upon that and kind of go a little farther.
Okay. So if we were going to do more than 1 octave, probably the easiest way to do that would be to start. We could do an A minor shape here.
Cool.
So for this shape, we're going to take it nice and slow here. So you have your root note here on the 5th fret of your low E string. Then you're going to reach with your pinky to hit the minor third, right, which is here, right? So we have
5E to 8E.
That's right. That's right. And then so we have the 7th fret on the A string is where we switch, and that is our 1 flat 3 5. That's our minor triad.
Yep.
Right.
Exactly.
So then all you're going to do is you're going to continue switching strings to D and hit the 5th fret, which is A. So this is our first octave.
Got it.
Right?
You go forward and backwards.
So yeah, that's I recommend at this point, you know, maybe pause the video and get into the get really comfortable with that motion. So Then you're going to hit the minor third again. This is we're really simple. We're just repeating triads in different areas. So, right? So you have the 5th fret of this G string, right? So at this point we've added another note. Just get comfortable going forward and backwards.
And so far the way we've used minor third is either 3 frets higher on the same string or 2 frets lower on the next
string. That's exactly
the
right.
exact same note.
Yep.
Just 2 ways.
Yeah.
And that's the beauty of guitar is that there are multiple ways to play the same note.
That's right.
Like on a piano, you can't do that. It's like this is the note. We have options. So sometimes the options can make things more confusing, but the options are actually very helpful as far as efficiency is concerned.
I think so too.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah, especially because you also have to consider where you want to go, right? Which is in this case why we choose this note, because we're going to slide. So we have this shape comfortable. We're actually going to slide here. I believe that's the 9th fret here on the G string. And that's the 5 of A. So we have... Right?
There you go. So in that one move, you've covered a lot of ground.
Yeah.
And that's why I personally think that arpeggios are the #1 way to learn how the fretboard connects.
Oh, yeah.
Even more so than scale shapes, even though really it's all the same stuff. It's different ways of looking at the same thing.
Yeah, the more that you explore modes and the more that you explore arpeggios, the more you realize it's legitimately all the same. It's very, so anyhow, the last note that we're going to hit in this particular sequence is we're going to finish on the 3rd octave of A, or technically the 2nd octave, right? So it's going to be...
There you go.
That's it. That's an A minor arpeggio.
Done.
And so I think that the main takeaway from this lesson, even though it's simple, is to maybe if you have a looper pedal, or you have a buddy and you can just play an A minor chord, really, really simply, and then just, work on so. Get comfortable moving around with it. Try to make it musical. You can, go up 3 notes.
Sure.
Back a note. Yeah, so. Yeah.
Hey. Whatever.
So
you do it.
Yeah, experiment. Explore.
We've actually made money doing this before. We got hired to kind of do this impromptu Christmas concert.
Oh yeah, with 2 days to prepare, if that.
Yeah, we didn't really rehearse even.
No.
And it's do you know any Christmas songs? I don't really know any Christmas songs.
So right.
So basically, we just showed up. I would play chords, and he would just arpeggiate over the chords. Then we would make facial expressions to make it seem like we were remembering things.
Yeah.
But really, it was just chords.
And everybody loved it.
Nobody knew the difference.
Yeah, that's right.
Seriously.
And you'll also find that a lot of famous melodies are just simple arpeggios. So as we were playing, it'd be like, oh, that kind of sounds like Jingle Bells. So let's
that's right.
Let's rock it a little bit, and So, we didn't technically play any Christmas songs, but, the spirit was there.
Exactly, and that's what's important.
Christmas spirit.
Especially in a Christmas concert.
I know.
That could be a different video.
That's right.
Yeah. So anyways, we have a minor arpeggio. Let's do the same thing major.
Yeah, so
we just have 2 to practice.
That's right, yeah. So the same thing major is going to take a little bit more of a stretch from your pinky, because as we're hitting here, this is the minor third, which means that you took the major scale of A and you flattened the third, 1 fret. So for this one, we're only going to change 1 note. It's the same pattern, but we're going to add right? Mm-hmm. So instead of hitting the 5th fret here on the G string, you hit the 6th fret. And then here, same thing. You're going to go up to the 9th fret. I think as far as technique, it is really important to learn how to, I've heard it called a roll. And what you're doing is your index finger, pinky, middle finger, and then you're rolling your middle finger to catch that next note.
For sure.
And then your index finger is right here, ready to catch that. So... and then slide, and there's your A.
And if it's like super hard for your pointer finger to your pinky to make that 4 fret reach,
Right.
I mean, you don't have to stick here. You can kind of jump,
That's right.
right? And I think, especially if you're doing wider interval stuff, jumping with your fingers is fine.
Absolutely.
Right.
And lastly, because we're talking about efficiency and the options, the other option is to just...
There you go.
So all I did was I went 1 string over and 1 fret up. Is the same note as...
Right? So that major third interval is what we're talking about. Now, the reason that he's going 4 frets to play a major third instead of down and back has more to do with the sweep picking stuff that we're generally going to get into.
Exactly.
Right? Because that, like, if you're really interested in sweep picking, you want that to be your thing, I would highly recommend you start playing the major scale by reaching instead of starting with your middle finger.
That's right.
Right? Which is fine. I mean, and honestly, a well-versed guitar player can do it both ways, depending on the context of what's happening. But, and also, too, it's just going to stretch your fingers out.
That's right.
You know what I mean? Because especially like if you're maybe just starting playing guitar, like your natural resting space of your fingers will be here, and then you play for 3 years and it's here, and it seems so minuscule, but this makes a world of difference as far as like what you can be able to do just by like training that into your hand and like having your fingers stretch out.
And I will say that the most frustrating part about beginning to use your pinky, this is for people who maybe have no experience with arpeggios and they're doing like pentatonic box 1, right? And they're using their ring finger.
Right.
When you begin to use your pinky, you will be worse. You just will. Your timing between your hands and your picking will...
Because what do you use your pinky for in life?
Right. So it will take time, but it will make you a more efficient and a better sounding guitar player, for sure.
So really,
Yeah.
the power of the pinky.
Power to the pinky.
So, practice your minor and major arpeggios, and then in future videos we're going to expand on that a little bit more.
That's right. Yeah, we're going to go over how you should pick them, all different shapes, and by the end of the series, you will comprehensively understand arpeggios all over the fretboard.
There you go. Arpeggios with friends. This is just the beginning. More to come.